All right, so today, let's dive into colors.
Ooh, fun.
It's interesting. You know how much we see color every single day, and we kind of take it for granted.
Right.
But you've sent over some really, really interesting sources, and it looks like we'll be exploring how colors are talked about in the IELTS speaking exam, which I thought was a really unique angle.
Yeah, definitely.
And I'm really excited to dig into this with you because even a topic like color, right? You think you know everything about it, but there's always more to discover.
Oh, absolutely. I think you'll be surprised by what we find.
I'm ready.
Okay.
So, the sources kind of jump right into this idea of favorite color,
Okay.
which I thought was a really interesting place to start.
Yeah.
And there's one example of someone named Emily who loves the color blue, and she cites its calming and peaceful qualities.
Yeah.
She connects it to happy memories by the ocean, and she even says that she feels like it reflects her personality.
Hmm.
So I thought that was really interesting.
Yeah. It's amazing how even that simple question, what's your favorite color,
Hmm.
can reveal so much about someone's, their inner world,
Yeah.
their preferences, what they associate with certain colors. It's really fascinating.
Yeah, and it almost makes you wonder, right? Like if your favorite color can be such a window into who you are,
Mm.
could it be linked to like broader personality traits?
Well, it's funny you should ask that there's a whole field
Oh,
of research called color psychology.
wow.
And they've actually looked into this.
That's amazing.
For instance, there have been studies that have shown that people who prefer the color blue, they tend to be more, introspective and analytical.
Oh, interesting.
And those who gravitate towards red are often more outgoing and energetic.
Hmm.
So, of course, these are just broad trends.
Yeah.
But it's so fascinating to think that maybe our color choices are reflecting these deeper aspects of who we are.
It really is. I never thought about that.
Right.
That's so interesting. Okay, so another source that you sent talked about the impact of color on mood.
Okay.
And there was a person named James who believes that brighter colors like yellow and orange kind of bring this sense of energy and happiness,
Mm-hmm.
while darker colors like gray and black evoke maybe a sense of seriousness or even gloom.
Yeah.
So I'm curious to get your thoughts on that.
Yeah. That's actually a very common belief, and there's some scientific basis to that, too.
Oh, really?
Yeah, so you see, our brains are wired to respond to different wavelengths of light,
Mm.
which is what we perceive as color.
Oh,
So, for example, exposure to brighter, shorter wavelengths, like those found in, yellows and oranges, can stimulate our nervous system
interesting.
and increase alertness.
Wow.
So that may be why they're associated with, these feelings of energy and happiness.
So it's not just like a feeling, it's like an actual physical reaction.
Exactly.
Oh, wow. That's incredible. Okay.
Yeah, so on the other hand, longer wavelengths, like those found in blues and greens, they tend to have a more calming effect.
That makes sense.
Right, think about like walking through nature and how you feel more relaxed.
Yeah.
It's partially due to the abundance of these soothing green hues.
It really is. I love that.
Yeah. And, this understanding of how color affects us biologically is actually used strategically
Oh, yeah.
in fields like marketing and design.
I was just thinking about that. Like fast food restaurants using bright colors to encourage like a quick turnover, or spas using like those calming blues to promote relaxation.
Yeah, or even like hospitals using certain colors to,
Yeah.
create a more calming and healing environment.
That makes a lot of sense. And speaking of James, he also mentioned feeling more cheerful in like brightly lit and colorful rooms.
Hmm.
And it made me think of this study that I had read a while back,
Oh, yeah.
where they found that hospital patients actually recovered faster in rooms with more natural light and like colorful decor.
That's a great example of how color can actually influence our well-being
Yeah,
in a tangible way.
absolutely.
Yeah, it's not just about aesthetics. It's really about creating environments that support, our physical and emotional health.
Yeah.
And this actually ties into another point that was raised in the sources, this
Mhm.
idea of color and memory.
Oh, right, right. James talked about choosing to wear a navy blue suit to a wedding
Yeah.
because it made him feel elegant and calm and confident. And he even said that, he got so many compliments that it boosted his confidence that day.
It's amazing how, a specific color can be tied to a memory
Yeah,
and the emotions associated with it.
totally.
Yeah. Our brains are incredibly good at making these connections,
It's true.
particularly how a certain scent can take you back to a particular place or time.
Oh, totally. Like Proust and his Madeline.
Exactly.
But it's interesting because it doesn't have to be a positive memory, right? Like
Right.
some colors can also trigger negative associations.
Oh, absolutely.
For me, I used to hate the color beige.
Oh,
because
yeah.
it reminded me of this really boring doctor's office I had to go to as a kid.
I can see that.
So it's amazing how powerful those subconscious connections can be.
It really is.
So, if colors can be tied to such strong memories, does that mean our color preferences can actually change over time?
That's a great question. And it leads us to, one of the most interesting things about color, which is its dynamic nature.
Hmm,
Our preferences aren't set in stone. They evolve as we do.
that makes a lot of sense.
Yeah, and actually James mentions how his color preferences have shifted
Oh, yeah.
from childhood to adulthood.
He did, yeah. So I'm curious to kind of dig into that.
Yeah, let's explore that.
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay, so we were talking about how our color preferences can kind of shift as we get older.
Yeah.
What did James say about his experience?
Well, he talked about how as a child he was really drawn to those vibrant colors,
Yeah.
like, reds and yellows.
Uh-huh.
They felt exciting and full of energy to him.
Makes sense.
But as he got older, his taste kind of shifted towards those more muted colors like grays and blues.
Right.
And he saw that as a reflection of his personal growth.
And a preference for maybe like a more sophisticated aesthetic.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's so interesting. It's like different colors represent different chapters in his life.
Yeah.
And I wonder if there's anything to that. Like, is there a psychological basis for those kinds of shifts?
Well, there's a lot of research in developmental psychology that suggests that,
Interesting.
younger children are often drawn to bright colors because they're just so stimulating.
Yeah.
And they really capture their attention. But as we mature,
Mm-hmm.
our preferences may evolve to reflect maybe a greater appreciation for subtlety
Mm-hmm.
or, complexity or the emotional resonance of certain hues.
Right. That makes a lot of sense, and I can definitely relate to that. I remember being obsessed with hot pink as a kid, but now I find it a bit much.
Right.
Maybe it's a sign of growing up,
Maybe.
but it's probably not just individual development, right? Like,
Yeah.
I'm guessing cultural influences play a role too.
Oh, absolutely. Our perceptions of color are so heavily influenced by societal norms
Right.
and cultural values.
For instance, in some cultures, certain colors are associated with specific genders.
Yeah.
Or social classes, or even spiritual beliefs. And these associations really shape our preferences from a young age.
Absolutely. I'm thinking about how in Western cultures, pink is so strongly associated with femininity,
Right.
while blue is linked to masculinity, but those associations aren't universal, are they?
Not at all.
Okay.
In other cultures, those same colors might hold totally different meanings.
Wow.
For example, in some Asian cultures, red is associated with good luck and prosperity,
Interesting.
while white is often the color of mourning.
Oh, wow. That's a stark contrast.
Yeah, it is.
And it really highlights how important it is to be aware of those cultural differences,
Right.
especially in a globalized world where we're constantly interacting with people from so many different backgrounds.
Yeah, absolutely. Color can be such a powerful tool for communication,
Yeah.
but it's really important to understand the cultural context
Right.
to avoid any, misunderstandings or misinterpretations.
Yeah, for sure. For sure. And speaking of cultural significance, one of the sources we got dives into how colors are actually used in celebrations around the world.
Right.
And Emily, who we talked about earlier, shares some examples from her own culture.
Yes. She explained that bright colors are often favored for festive occasions.
Mm-hmm.
For example, red is commonly used in weddings
Oh, yeah.
to symbolize love and happiness,
Makes sense.
while yellows and oranges are popular for festivals
Yeah.
to represent energy and positivity.
I love that it's like the color adds this whole other layer of meaning and
Yeah.
vibrancy to these events.
Absolutely.
What other examples are there? Like, what colors hold special meaning in other cultures?
Oh, there are so many fascinating examples.
I bet.
In India, there's the Holi festival, which is a riot of color.
Wow.
People throw brightly colored powders on each other
I've heard of
to
that.
celebrate the arrival of spring.
That sounds amazing.
And then in Mexico, the Day of the Dead celebrations feature vibrant orange marigolds, which are believed to guide the spirits of loved ones back home.
Wow. Those sound like incredible visual experiences.
Yeah.
It's amazing how color can be used to express such a wide range of emotions and beliefs and cultural values.
Yeah, color is really more than just a visual element. It's a powerful form of nonverbal communication
Right.
that goes beyond language.
I love that this whole conversation has been so eye-opening.
Yeah.
It makes you realize that we take color for granted so much.
It's true, we're constantly bombarded with color,
Yeah.
but we rarely stop to think about, the impact it has on us.
Yeah.
on our emotions and our perceptions, and even our social interactions.
Totally. It's like we're swimming in a sea of color, but we've never really learned to appreciate its depth.
That's a great way to put it.
And speaking of deep dives, there's one more aspect of color I'd love to explore with you.
Okay.
This idea of gender and color stereotypes.
Okay.
It's a bit of a sensitive topic,
Yeah.
but it's definitely something that comes up in these sources.
Yeah, you're right. It's a topic that requires careful consideration.
Yeah.
I think it's important to approach this conversation with nuance and a critical eye.
Absolutely. So let's dive into that. So we were just about to talk about this idea of gender and color stereotypes.
Right.
One of the observations from the sources is that women often gravitate towards softer colors, like pinks and pastels,
Uh-huh.
while men prefer darker or neutral colors, like black, gray, navy.
Yeah. Those are definitely common stereotypes that we see reflected everywhere,
Yeah,
in marketing and fashion.
for sure.
But I think as we've been talking about, it's really important to be cautious about reinforcing these rigid generalizations.
Totally. I mean, I know so many women who love to rock a power suit and love the color black.
Right.
And I know men who embrace bright colors.
Exactly.
It's so individual.
Yeah. It's important to remember that, these are just broad observations,
Yeah.
and there's a huge spectrum of individual expression
Right.
when it comes to color preferences.
It's so true. And I think this actually highlights a broader point about color in general, right?
Mhm.
It's so subjective
It really is.
and multifaceted.
Yeah. What one person finds appealing, another might find totally jarring.
Exactly. And what evokes joy for one person might trigger sadness or anxiety for someone else.
That's true.
It's like we're all seeing the world through our own unique color filters.
Yeah, I love that.
And that's what makes this whole topic so fascinating.
Yes.
We've gone from talking about our favorite colors to uncovering the science behind color perception and the cultural significance and even the complexities of these gender stereotypes.
It's amazing how much depth there is to this topic.
It really is. And, it makes you realize just how much we take color for granted.
Right. We're surrounded by it all the time.
Constantly, yeah.
But we rarely stop and really think about its impact on us.
Exactly. And one of the sources mentioned that the human eye can distinguish something like 10 million different colors.
Wow.
Can you imagine?
10 million.
10 million different shades each with the potential to evoke its own unique feeling or memory or association.
It's mind-boggling.
It really is.
Yeah, and I think it just speaks to the vastness of the human experience.
Absolutely.
And all the different ways that color can enrich our lives.
It makes you want to pay more attention to the colors around you.
Right.
Really notice them.
Yeah.
The variations in a sunset or the vibrancy of a flower.
Absolutely.
Or even just the calming shades of your own home.
Yeah, I love that.
So it's been an amazing conversation.
It has.
I've learned so much.
Me too.
And I think the takeaway here is to really embrace the power of color and appreciate its complexity and its richness.
Yeah, absolutely. And, remember that there's always more to discover.
Exactly. Keep those color reels turning.
Yeah.
And until our next deep dive, keep exploring the world with curiosity and wonder.